David Henry's fingers fly across the control panel as his ship plummets through the alien atmosphere. Alarms blare, red lights flash. The vessel shudders violently. He's going to crash on this unknown world, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. Mayday, Mayday, this is Captain David Henry. My ship is critically damaged. I'm attempting an emergency landing on an uncharted planet, coordinates unknown. If anyone receives this message, please... The transmission cuts off as the ship's systems fail. David grits his teeth, bracing for impact. At the last second, he pulls the ejection lever. The cockpit explodes open. He's thrown into the air, his stomach lurching as he freefalls. His parachute deploys, slowing his descent. Below him, a sea of purple foliage stretches as far as the eye can see. His ship strikes the ground in a ball of fire, the explosion echoing across the alien landscape. David lands hard, tumbling through dense underbrush. Branches whip his face. His suit tears. When he finally comes to a stop, he's battered, bruised, and bleeding. He reaches for his emergency beacon, but finds it crushed. His communicator is offline. Dazed and disoriented, David stumbles through the forest. Strange creatures skitter away as he approaches. Alien birds with 6 wings screech overhead. A plant with tentacle-like vines reaches for him. He jerks away, heart pounding. Hours pass. The alien sun sets, casting an eerie green glow across the landscape. David's vision blurs. His legs give out. As consciousness fades, he sees a figure approaching. Humanoid, but not human. A ridged nose, elaborate earrings. Then darkness claims him. He wakes to find himself surrounded by curious faces. Aliens. Their features are similar to humans, but unmistakably foreign. They speak in a language he can't understand. One of them, a female with striking blue eyes, leans in close. She touches his face gently, a look of fascination in her eyes. The aliens argue amongst themselves. Their tones grow heated. David tries to speak, but his words come out slurred. The female, Hera, he later learns, places a protective hand on his chest. She faces the others, her stance defiant. More arguing. David catches snippets of their alien language. One word repeats, execute. His blood runs cold. Hera's voice rises above the others. She gestures to David, then to herself. The word marry cuts through the din. Silence falls. The aliens stare at Hera in shock. Then the room erupts in chaos. David struggles to make sense of what's happening. His fate hangs in the balance as these strange beings debate his future. Meanwhile, light years away, alarms sound at Earth Space Command. David's ship has vanished from their sensors. Emergency protocols activate. Search and rescue teams mobilize. But the universe is vast, and David is lost in uncharted space. As diplomatic channels buzz with activity, tensions rise between Earth and other galactic powers. Accusations fly. Threats are made. David's disappearance becomes a spark that threatens to ignite an interstellar powder keg. Unaware of the galaxy-wide implications of his crash, David Henry, astronaut, explorer, and now the first human on Bajor, fights for survival in a world beyond his wildest imagination. And Hera, the alien beauty who wants to marry him, may be his only hope for survival. As the chaos in the room subsided, David's vision began to clear. The alien faces surrounding him came into sharper focus, their features a strange blend of familiar and foreign. Hera's hand remained on his chest, a warm, reassuring presence amidst the confusion. Over the next few days, David drifted in and out of consciousness. Each time he awoke, Hera was there, tending to his wounds and offering sips of a sweet purple liquid that seemed to accelerate his healing. As his strength returned, David became more aware of his surroundings. He found himself in a circular room with smooth, pale blue walls that seemed to glow from within. Strange symbols adorned the ceiling, pulsing with a soft light that changed color throughout the day. The air hummed with an energy he couldn't quite explain, and occasionally he caught glimpses of holographic displays flickering to life and disappearing just as quickly. On the 4th day, David managed to sit up. Hera smiled, her blue eyes sparkling with what he hoped was relief. She spoke, her words still incomprehensible, but her tone gentle and encouraging. David tried to respond, but his own words came out slurred and garbled. Hera placed a small, oval device on his temple. It adhered to his skin with a tingling sensation. Suddenly, her words began to take on meaning. Language matrix. Should help. Understand. Hera's voice faded in, becoming clearer with each word. Can you understand me now, David? David's eyes widened. Yes, he said, his voice hoarse from disuse. I can understand you. Hera's face lit up. Good. I am Hera. You are on Bajor. We found you after your ship? She hesitated on the unfamiliar word. After it fell from the sky. Over the next few days, as David regained his strength, Hera became his guide to this alien world. She taught him basic Bajoran phrases, explained their customs, and shared stories of their history. David learned that the Bajorans were an advanced civilization that had chosen to live in harmony with nature, blending their technology seamlessly with the environment. As fascinated as he was by their culture, David couldn't shake the feeling of unease that permeated the village. He noticed the wary glances, the hushed conversations that stopped when he approached. It was clear that his presence was causing tension. One evening, as Hera brought him a meal of strange, colorful fruits and what appeared to be some kind of roasted meat, David broached the subject. Hera, why did you suggest marrying me? What's really going on here? Hera's face fell, her blue eyes clouding with worry. The elders, they fear you. Some want to remove the threat you pose. She struggled with the words, her distress evident. Marriage would make you part of our people. It would protect you. David's mind reeled. The gravity of his situation hit him anew. He was more than just lost. He was in danger. And this woman, this alien who owed him nothing, was risking her own standing to keep him safe. Before he could respond, a commotion outside drew their attention. They rushed to the window to see a crowd gathering in the village center. In the middle stood a tall, imposing Bajoran man, his face contorted with anger as he gestured wildly at the sky. It's Kai Varen, Hera whispered, her voice tight with tension. He's one of the elders who wants you gone. He says your presence has brought a curse upon us. As if to punctuate her words, the lights in the room flickered and died. Outside, David could see other buildings going dark, their strange, bioluminescent glow fading to nothing. What's happening? David asked, his heart racing. Hera shook her head, her expression a mix of fear and confusion. I don't know, but this isn't the first time. Ever since you arrived, things have been failing. A man pushed through the crowd, making his way towards Kai Varen. He bore a striking resemblance to Hera, with the same striking blue eyes and determined set to his jaw. That's my brother, Torin, Hera explained. He's an engineer. If anyone can figure out what's causing these failures, it's him. As they watched, Torin engaged in a heated discussion with Kai Varen. The elder's face grew redder by the moment, while Torin remained calm, his gestures measured and precise. Finally, Torin turned to address the crowd. His voice carried clearly through the open window. Friends, neighbors, I know you're scared, but we can't let fear drive us to rash actions. I've detected an unknown energy signature near the crash site. It's possible that it's interfering with our systems. I propose we investigate further before jumping to conclusions. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement while others shouted their dissent. Kai Varen's voice rose above the din. And who will conduct this investigation? You and the alien? How can we trust either of you? David turned to Hera, his mind racing. I want to help, he said firmly. I have experience with deep space phenomena. Maybe I can offer some insight. Hera looked at him, surprise and something else. Admiration, perhaps, flickering in her eyes. Are you sure? It could be dangerous. Some of our people... David nodded. I'm sure. It's the right thing to do. And maybe if I can help solve this problem, your people will see that I'm not a threat. Hera squeezed his hand, a gesture that sent an unexpected thrill through him. Then let's go. I'll introduce you to Torin. As they made their way outside, David's heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement. He was about to step into the unknown, to face a potentially hostile crowd and an unexplained phenomenon. But as he felt Hera's presence beside him, steady and reassuring, he knew he was making the right choice. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them head-on, not just for his own survival, but for the people of this strange and beautiful world that had become his temporary home. As David and Hera made their way through the curious crowd, the tension in the air was palpable. Whispers and suspicious glances followed them, but David stood tall, determined to prove his worth to these people who had taken him in. Boran greeted them with a cautious smile, his eyes darting between David and the agitated villagers. "I'm glad you're here," he said, his voice low. "We need all the help we can get." Over the next few days, David threw himself into the investigation alongside Boran. They pored over data, analyzed energy readings, and ventured out to the crash site multiple times. The work was exhausting, but exhilarating. David found himself impressed by Boran's ingenuity and the advanced yet organic nature of Boran technology. As they worked, David couldn't help but notice the growing hostility from some villagers, particularly those who followed Boran. The elder's words seemed to be taking root, feeding the fear and suspicion that had been simmering since David's arrival. On the 5th day of their investigation, everything changed. David and Boran were examining the crash site when their instruments began to go haywire. A surge of energy pulsed through the air, making the hair on David's arms stand on end. "What's happening?" David shouted over the sudden whine of their equipment. Boran's eyes were wide with a mix of fear and excitement. "It's the artifact. It's interfacing with your ship's remains." They watched in awe as tendrils of energy snaked from the ground, wrapping around the twisted metal of David's crashed vessel. The air crackled with electricity, and David felt a strange tingling sensation throughout his body. Suddenly, their communicators erupted with frantic messages from the village. Power grids were failing, advanced systems were shutting down, and chaos was spreading. In the midst of the mayhem, David heard a familiar beeping. His emergency beacon, which he'd thought destroyed in the crash, had somehow activated. Its signal pulsed strongly, broadcasting into the depths of space. As they rushed back to the village, David's mind raced. The artifact wasn't just reacting to his presence or his technology. It was actively interfacing with it. The implications were staggering. Upon their return, they found the village in disarray. Hera pushed through the crowd, her face etched with worry. She grabbed David's arm and pulled him aside, away from the panicked villagers. "David, it's not safe for you here anymore," she said, her voice urgent. "Boran is using this chaos to turn more people against you. We need to get you somewhere safe." Before David could respond, Hera was leading him away from the village center into a secluded area bordered by the strange purple foliage he'd first seen upon crash landing. As they moved deeper into the alien forest, the sounds of the village faded away. Hera stopped in a small clearing, turning to face David. Her blue eyes searched his face, filled with an intensity that made his breath catch. "David, I don't know what's going to happen, but I need you to know that I believe in you. I trust you." The air between them seemed to crackle with the same energy that had surrounded the artifact. David found himself drawn to her, captivated by her alien beauty and the warmth of her spirit. Without thinking, he leaned in, closing the distance between them. Their lips met and the world seemed to fall away. The kiss was electric, a meeting of two worlds, two species. It was tender and passionate, filled with the intensity of their shared experiences and growing feelings. As they parted breathless, a twig snapped nearby. They turned to see Boran standing at the edge of the clearing, his face contorted with rage and disgust. "Abomination!" he roared, pointing an accusing finger at them. "See how this alien corrupts our people? He must be destroyed." David's heart plummeted as he saw a group of villagers emerge from the forest behind Boran, their faces twisted with anger and fear. He grabbed Hera's hand, and without a word they ran. They plunged deeper into the alien forest, branches whipping past their faces as they fled. David's survival training kicked in, helping him navigate the unfamiliar terrain. Hera's knowledge of the local flora and fauna proved invaluable as she steered them away from dangerous plants and towards hidden paths. As they ran, the forest seemed to come alive around them. Strange, bioluminescent creatures scurried away from their footsteps. Plants retracted their tendrils as they passed, as if sensing the urgency of their flight. The shouts of their pursuers echoed through the trees, sometimes seeming to fade, only to grow louder again. David's lungs burned, and his legs ached, but he pushed on, Hera's hand clasped tightly in his own. Just as it seemed they couldn't run any further, Hera tugged David towards a dark opening, partially hidden by hanging vines. "The caves," she gasped. "We can lose them in there." They ducked into the cave entrance, the sudden darkness enveloping them. As their eyes adjusted, David realized this was no ordinary cave. The walls seemed to pulse with a faint blue light, and strange symbols adorned the smooth surfaces. "What is this place?" David whispered, his voice filled with awe. Hera shook her head, her eyes wide with wonder. "I don't know. I've never seen anything like this before." As they ventured deeper into the cave system, the blue glow intensified. The air hummed with energy, reminiscent of the artifact's power. David's mind raced with possibilities. Could this place be connected to the technological disruptions in the village? Their path led them into a vast chamber that took their breath away. Sleek, alien machinery lined the walls, pulsing with the same blue energy. Holographic displays flickered to life as they entered, filling the air with ghostly images of star systems and advanced technology. This is impossible," Hera breathed, her voice barely audible. "Our history, everything we've been taught." David squeezed her hand reassuringly. "It looks like your people have a far more advanced past than anyone realized. This could change everything." As they explored the underground complex, piecing together the fragments of Bajor's forgotten history, they lost track of time. The pursuit above ground seemed distant, almost unreal in the face of their incredible discovery. It wasn't until the distant sound of voices echoed through the caves that reality came crashing back. Their pursuers had found the cave entrance. "We need to keep moving," David said urgently. "There has to be another way out." They pressed deeper into the complex, the blue glow guiding their way. As they entered a new chamber filled with what looked like stasis pods, a low hum filled the air. Lights began to flicker on around them, and the machinery came to life with a whir. "David," Hera said, her voice tight with fear, "I think we've activated something." Before they could react, a shimmering force field sprang up, cutting off their exit. They were trapped, with the complex awakening around them and hostile villagers closing in from behind. As the gravity of their situation sank in, David pulled Hera close. "Whatever happens," he said softly, "we're in this together." In the depths of space, unbeknownst to the trapped couple, a ship of interstellar traders changed course, drawn by the signal of David's emergency beacon. Their arrival would soon add yet another complication to an already volatile situation. As the ancient Bajoran technology hummed to life around them, David and Hera stood at the precipice of a discovery that could reshape the future of Bajor and humanity's place in the galaxy. The coming hours would test their resourcefulness, their growing bond, and their ability to bridge the gap between two worlds. Two worlds. The coming hours would test their resourcefulness, their growing bond, and their ability to bridge the gap between two vastly different species. As the first rays of dawn filtered through the cave entrance, David and Hera stirred from their fitful sleep. The events of the previous night came rushing back, and they found themselves surrounded by the pulsing blue glow of the ancient Bajoran technology. Suddenly, the complex shuddered to life around them. Lights flickered on in rapid succession, illuminating corridors and chambers they hadn't noticed before. A low hum filled the air, growing in intensity as dormant machines whirred to life. "What's happening?" Hera whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder. David scanned the room, his survival instincts kicking in. "I think we've triggered some kind of automated system. We need to find a way out of here." They scrambled to their feet, only to find that the shimmering force field still blocked their exit. As they searched for another way out, the complex seemed to come alive, responding to their presence in ways they couldn't understand. Outside the underground facility, Kai Varen and his followers combed the forest, their dedication fueled by fear and suspicion. The village elder's face was etched with lines of anger as he barked orders to his search party. "They can't have gone far," he growled. "Find them before that alien corrupts our entire world." Back in the village, Torin found himself facing a hostile crowd. Accusations of treason flew as he tried to explain the importance of his work with David. "You don't understand," he pleaded. "The artifact, David's ship, there's a connection we need to explore. It could be the key to saving our technology." His words fell on deaf ears as the technological disruptions worsened. Power grids failed across the settlement, plunging sections into darkness and causing widespread panic. High above Bajor, a sleek interstellar trading vessel entered the planet's atmosphere. On the bridge, Captain Zorax, a reptilian alien with sharp features and calculating eyes, studied the readings on his console. "That energy signature is unlike anything I've seen before," he mused, his forked tongue flicking out in excitement. "Prepare for landing. Whatever's down there could be worth a fortune in the right markets." As the ship descended, David and Hera stumbled upon a control room deep within the complex. Holographic displays sprang to life around them, filling the air with streams of data in an unfamiliar script. "This technology," David breathed, "it's far beyond anything I've seen, even in the most advanced Federation outposts." Hera nodded, her fingers hovering over a console. "It's nothing like our current systems. This is ancestral, ancient." As they examined the controls, David's hand brushed against a sensor pad. The room hummed, and a holographic figure materialized before them, an elderly Bajoran man in ornate robes. "Greetings, descendants," the hologram spoke, its voice echoing through the chamber. "If you are witnessing this message, our greatest fears have come to pass, and our people have forgotten their true heritage." David and Hera listened in awe as the ancient scientist revealed the truth of Bajor's past, a civilization that once spanned multiple star systems but chose isolation to protect themselves from an unspecified cosmic threat. "This facility," the hologram continued, "is our last line of defense, a shield to protect our world, weapons to defend our people. But to prevent misuse, it requires a unique genetic key, a combination of Bajoran and off-world DNA." As the implications of this revelation sank in, the complex's internal sensors detected David and Hera's biosignatures. Lights pulsed, and a deep thrumming filled the air as massive generators began to power up. "David," Hera gasped, grabbing his arm, "I think we've activated something." The ground shook, the tremors reaching the surface, where Kai Varan and his search party stumbled, looking around in confusion. In the distance, they spotted a strange ship descending from the sky. "Intruders!" Kai Varan shouted, pointing at the vessel. "The alien has brought reinforcements." Inside the complex, David and Hera struggled to make sense of the activating systems. Holographic displays showed a planetary shield forming, while other screens depicted weapon systems coming online. "We need to shut this down," David said urgently, his hands flying over the controls. "We don't know what these weapons might do." But as they worked, they noticed something strange. The facility seemed to be drawing energy not just from its generators, but from them as well. A tingling sensation spread through their bodies, and they found themselves hyper-aware of each other's presence. "David," Hera said, her voice trembling slightly, I think the system is linking us somehow." Their eyes met, and a jolt of electricity seemed to pass between them. The attraction they'd felt before intensified, making it hard to focus on the crisis at hand. Outside, Captain Zorax led his crew towards the energy source, their advanced weapons at the ready. They encountered Kai Varan's group, leading to a tense standoff in the alien forest. "Stand aside, primitives," Zorax hissed, his reptilian features twisting into a sneer. "Whatever's in those caves is far too valuable for the likes of you." As the two groups faced off, Torin raced from the village with a group of defenders, desperate to reach David and Hera before it was too late. In the depths of the complex, David and Hera made a startling discovery. The defense system wasn't just linking them, it was changing them, adapting their physiology to become more compatible with each other and the ancient technology. "We need to stop this," Hera said, her voice filled with a mix of fear and something else, a growing desire she couldn't explain. David nodded, feeling the same conflicting emotions. "But how? We can't let these weapons activate, but we don't know how to shut it down." As the complex's systems reached critical levels, David and Hera faced an impossible choice. The fate of Bajor, and potentially the wider galaxy, hung in the balance as they searched for a way to stop the awakening defenses before it was too late. Too late. As the complex's systems reached their peak, a sudden realization struck David and Hera simultaneously. The bioenergy link, David gasped, his eyes widening. It's not just connecting us to the technology, it's connecting us to each other, Hera finished, her breath quickening. The air around them crackled with energy, and the attraction they'd felt before intensified tenfold. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, they understood what needed to be done. We need to complete the bond, Hera whispered, her voice trembling. It's the only way to overload the system and reset it. David nodded, his heart racing. Are you sure about this? Hera's response was to pull him close, her lips meeting his in a passionate kiss. As they embraced, the complex's energy field enveloped them, creating a shimmering cocoon of light. With trembling hands, they began to remove their clothing. The bioenergy link heightened every sensation, making each touch electric. As skin met skin, the facility's systems pulsed in response, screens flashing with streams of data. Their union was both urgent and tender, driven by the need to save Bajor and a genuine connection that had grown between them. As they moved together, the energy field intensified, lifting them slightly off the ground. David gasped as he felt Hera's consciousness brush against his own. Their thoughts and emotions intertwined, creating a feedback loop of pleasure and purpose. The complex's systems mirrored their building passion, power levels spiking dramatically. Outside, Captain Zorax and his crew had nearly breached the entrance when the ground began to shake. Boran and his followers watched in awe as pulses of blue light emanated from the cave opening. Inside, David and Hera reached their climax together, crying out as waves of pleasure and energy coursed through them. The facility's systems overloaded, sending a massive pulse of energy radiating outward. The shockwave rippled across the landscape, knocking Zorax and his team off their feet. Their cutting tools short-circuited, halting their progress. Boran's group stumbled, shielding their eyes from the brilliant flash. As the energy dissipated, David and Hera found themselves lying on the floor, their bodies still tingling from the discharge. They quickly dressed, both slightly bashful but exhilarated by what had transpired. Look, Hera pointed, her eyes wide. The force fields had vanished, and previously locked doors stood open. They ventured deeper into the complex, discovering a control room filled with advanced communication technology and historical records. As they examined the displays, they realized the true extent of Bajor's forgotten past. We need to contact the village, David said, his fingers flying over the controls. They need to know the truth. As they established communication with the village elders, Torin and the defenders arrived at the complex. After a moment of tension, Torin embraced his sister, relief evident on his face. What happened here? He asked, looking around in wonder. Before they could answer, the long-range sensors lit up, detecting multiple ships entering the Bajoran system. David's eyes widened as he recognized the signatures. Earth vessels, he breathed. They must have picked up my distress call. The group exchanged worried glances, realizing the situation had just become far more complicated. As they began to discuss their options, David and Hera found themselves finishing each other's sentences, their thoughts flowing seamlessly between them. The bioenergy link, Hera explained to the confused onlookers. It's changed us. We can sense each other's thoughts and feelings. As they explored this new connection, they discovered they could interface with the ancient technology in ways neither human nor Bajoran could alone. Screens responded to their combined touch, revealing secrets long hidden. We need to protect this place, David said, his voice firm. And we need to manage first contact between Earth and Bajor. Hera nodded, her mind already racing with possibilities. But we also need to deal with those interstellar traders. They won't give up easily. As they formulated a plan, the weight of their responsibility settled upon them. The fate of Bajor, its people, and potentially the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy rested in their hands. David squeezed Hera's hand, drawing strength from their connection. Together they turned to face the challenges ahead, ready to navigate the complex political landscape that was rapidly forming around them. The ancient Bajoran complex hummed with renewed energy, its systems adapting to the unique human-Bajoran interface David and Hera now provided. As Earthships drew closer and the interstellar traders regrouped, the stage was set for a confrontation that would shape the future of multiple civilizations. Worlds. As David and Hera processed this realization, the complex's systems suddenly blared to life, screens flashing with urgent alerts. "The Earthships," David said, his eyes widening as he scanned the readouts. "They're getting close." Hera's fingers flew over the controls, her mind working in perfect sync with David's. "We need to buy some time. There's too much at stake for a rushed first contact." As if responding to their thoughts, a holographic display materialized before them, showing a schematic of a massive energy field surrounding the planet. "A planetary cloak," Hera breathed, her voice filled with awe. "I didn't think such a thing was possible." David nodded, understanding flowing between them through their bioenergy link. "Let's do it." Together, they placed their hands on the control panel. Energy surged through their bodies, connecting them to the ancient systems. With a thought, they activated the cloaking device. Outside, the sky shimmered briefly as the cloak enveloped Bajor. On the bridge of the lead Earth vessel, the planet suddenly vanished from their sensors. "What the hell?" the captain exclaimed, staring at the empty space where Bajor should have been. "Where did it go?" Back on the surface, the activation of the cloak had an unexpected side effect. Captain Zax's ship, hovering above the forest, suddenly lost power. Alarms blared as the vessel plummeted towards the ground. "Brace for impact," Zax shouted, his reptilian features contorted with rage and fear. The ship crashed through the canopy, carving a path of destruction before skidding to a halt near the ancient complex. As Zax and his crew stumbled from the wreckage, their eyes locked on the entrance to the facility. "There," Zax hissed, pointing a clawed finger. "Whatever disrupted our systems must be in there, and it's worth more than we ever imagined." Inside the complex, David and Hera monitored the situation through the facility's sensors. They watched as Zax's crew advanced, their weapons at the ready. "We need to warn Toran," Hera said, quickly establishing a communication link with her brother. Toran's face appeared on a nearby screen, concern etched in his features. "Hera, what's happening? The sky just flickered." "There's no time to explain," she replied urgently. "Hostile aliens are heading your way. Get everyone inside the complex now." As Toran rallied the village defenders, David and Hera worked to activate more of the facility systems. Their bioenergy link allowed them to interface with the technology in ways neither human nor Bajoran could alone. Suddenly, a new alert flashed across the screens. David's eyes widened as he interpreted the data. "Hera, look at this. There's a chamber deep within the complex, with thousands of stasis pods." Hera gasped as she processed the information flowing through their shared consciousness. "Ancient Bajorans. They've been in suspended animation all this time." Before they could fully grasp the implications, the sound of weapons fire echoed through the corridors. Toran and his group burst into the control room, panting and singed from near misses. "They're right behind us," Toran reported, helping an injured defender to a nearby seat. "Their weapons are like nothing we've ever seen." David and Hera exchanged a determined look. "We need to activate the complex's defenses," David said, his hands already moving across the control panel. As they worked, they felt a surge of energy coursing through their bodies. The bioenergy link intensified, lifting them slightly off the ground as a shimmering field enveloped them. "What's happening to you?" Toran asked, his voice a mix of awe and concern. Hera met her brother's gaze, her eyes glowing with an inner light. "We're channeling the power of the ancients," she explained, her voice resonating with newfound strength. "And we're going to use it to protect Bajor." Outside the complex, Kyvarin and his followers watched in shock as the interstellar traders advanced, their energy weapons carving swaths of destruction through the forest. "This is far beyond anything we imagined," one of Kyvarin's advisors said, fear evident in his voice. Kyvarin's expression hardened as he made a decision. "We were wrong about the outsider," he declared. "The true threat comes from the stars. We must join forces with David and Hera to protect our world." As Kyvarin led his group towards the complex, the first of the ancient Bajorans began to stir in their stasis pods. Deep within the facility, thousands of eyes opened for the first time in centuries, unaware of the battle raging above them. In the control room, David and Hera felt the awakening through their connection to the complex. "We need to reach them," Hera said urgently. "They might be our only hope of understanding this technology fully." As they prepared to venture deeper into the facility, the walls shook from a massive impact. Captain Zax's voice boomed through a makeshift amplification device outside. "Surrender the alien technology," he demanded, "or we'll reduce this entire complex to rubble." David and Hera shared a determined look, their minds already formulating a plan through their shared consciousness. The ancient Bajoran complex hummed with energy, ready to unleash its full potential as the battle for Bajor's future reached its critical moment. As David and Hera prepared to engage the complex's defenses, a surge of energy coursed through their joined bodies. The bioenergy link between them pulsed with newfound intensity, sending waves of tingling sensation from their fingertips to their toes. Suddenly, the ancient Bajoran technology around them sprang to life with unexpected vigor. Screens flickered with rapid streams of data, and a low hum filled the air as dormant systems activated. David and Hera gasped in unison as they felt the complex responding to their heightened emotional and physical state. "What's happening?" Toran asked, his eyes wide as he watched his sister and the human lifted slightly off the ground, enveloped in a shimmering field of energy. Before they could respond, the energy field expanded rapidly, pushing outward from the facility. It swept across the forest, engulfing the advancing traders in its wake. Through their link to the complex's sensors, David and Hera witnessed the effect of the field on their attackers. Captain Zax and his crew froze mid-step, their weapons clattering to the ground as the energy washed over them. The traders' bodies twitched and convulsed, caught in the grip of the immobilizing force. "They're stopped," David said, his voice strained as he maintained the connection to the complex's systems. "But I don't know how long we can hold them." Hera squeezed his hand, her mind racing through possibilities. "We need to use this time wisely. There must be more we can do with this technology." As if in response to her words, a figure emerged from one of the newly opened chambers. An elderly Bajoran woman, her eyes bright with intelligence, approached them with purpose. "I am Lyra," she announced, her gaze fixed on David and Hera's joined hands. "I was the lead scientist of this facility before we entered Stasis. Your bond, it's unlike anything I've seen before." Toran stepped forward, his posture protective. "Can you help us? We're under attack by interstellar traders, and there are Earth ships approaching." Lyra nodded, her expression grave. "Follow me. There's a device that may amplify your connection and give you greater control over our defenses." As they hurried through the winding corridors, David and Hera felt the strain of maintaining the energy field. Sweat beaded on their foreheads, and their muscles ached with exertion. They entered a hidden chamber, dominated by a large crystalline structure pulsing with inner light. "This amplifier was designed for bonded Bajoran pairs," Lyra explained, gesturing for them to approach. "But your unique human Bajoran link may be even more powerful." David and Hera exchanged a glance, silently communicating their readiness. They stepped onto a circular platform before the device, their hands still clasped tightly. Lyra activated the amplifier, and a surge of energy enveloped them. The sensation was overwhelming. Their minds expanded, connecting to every system within the complex. They could feel the planetary cloaking device, the defensive shields, and countless other technologies waiting to be awakened. With a shared thought, they extended the planetary cloak, reinforcing it against the approaching Earth ships. Another mental command strengthened the shields around the facility, creating an impenetrable barrier. But the power came at a cost. Pain lanced through their bodies, and their vision blurred. They could feel their very cells changing, adapting to channel the immense energies flowing through them. "David," Hera gasped, her voice strained. "The Earth ships. They're breaking through the cloak." Through the complex's sensors, they watched as the planet of Bajor suddenly appeared on the Earth vessel's screens. They could hear the shocked exclamations of the ship commanders as they discovered an unknown alien world teeming with advanced technology. A voice crackled through the communication systems, broadcasting in multiple languages. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Alliance. We come in peace and seek to establish contact with your world. Before they could respond, another alert demanded their attention. Captain Zorax and his crew were beginning to shake off the effects of the immobilizing field. The reptilian trader's face contorted with rage as he activated his ship's communication array. "Attention, Earth vessels," Zorax's voice boomed, filled with false concern. "I represent the people of Bajor. We are being held hostage by a dangerous human fugitive who has seized control of a powerful weapon. Please, you must help us." David and Hera felt a surge of anger at the deception. Through their enhanced connection to the Bajoran systems, they could sense the confusion spreading among the Earthship commanders. "We have to tell them the truth," David said, his face hardened against the pain of maintaining their link. Hera nodded, her face pale with exertion. "But we can't reveal everything about this technology. The consequences could be disastrous." As they grappled with this dilemma, they became aware of other presences stirring within the complex. The ancient Bajorans were awakening, emerging from their stasis pods into a world vastly changed from the one they left behind. Voran entered the chamber, his eyes widening as he took in the sight of David and Hera, suspended in the amplifier's energy field. "What is happening to them?" he asked Lyra, his voice filled with concern and a hint of fear. Lyra's expression was grave as she monitored the readings on a nearby console. "Their bodies are changing, adapting to interface with our technology, but the strain, I fear it may be too much for them to bear for long." Outside the complex, the Earthships established a blockade around Bajor, their sensors scanning the planet for signs of the alleged hostage situation. Captain Zorax and his crew regrouped, preparing for another assault on the facility. David and Hera stood at the center of the maelstrom, their bodies and minds linked in ways neither human nor Bajoran had experienced before. As the fate of two worlds hung in the balance, they knew that their next actions would shape the future of interstellar relations for generations to come. With their enhanced senses, they could feel the tension building both inside and outside the complex. The awakened ancient Bajorans were beginning to mingle with the villagers, creating a mix of excitement and apprehension. Earth ships loomed in orbit, a potential threat or ally, and somewhere in the forest, Captain Zorax plotted his next move. David squeezed Hera's hand, drawing strength from their connection. They had to find a way to navigate this crisis, to protect Bajor and establish peaceful contact with Earth. But as the power continued to surge through them, altering their very beings, they couldn't help but wonder, at what cost would their victory come? Come? Their joined hands trembled as they fought to maintain control over the ancient technology. Suddenly, a surge of energy pulsed through their bodies, causing them to gasp in unison. The bioenergy link between David and Hera intensified, sending waves of tingling sensation from their fingertips to their toes. The air around them shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and they felt their bodies lifting slightly off the ground. "David, look!" Hera exclaimed, her voice a mix of wonder and alarm. As they glanced at each other, they noticed startling changes. David's skin had taken on a faint, iridescent sheen, reminiscent of Bajoran bioluminescence. Hera's features, once a blend of human and Bajoran characteristics, now appeared more distinctly human-like. Their enhanced connection to the complex's systems flooded their minds with information. In that moment of clarity, they knew what they had to do. "We need to show everyone the truth," David said, his voice resonating with newfound strength. With a shared thought, they activated the complex's holographic projectors. A massive display materialized above the planet's surface, visible to both the Earthships in orbit and the trader vessels below. The hologram depicted a vivid recreation of recent events: the traders' arrival, their attempted seizure of the ancient technology, and the brave defense mounted by the Bajorans and David. As the truth unfolded before their eyes, Admiral Sarah Chen's voice crackled through the communication systems. "This is Admiral Chen to all Earth vessels. Target the trader ships with non-lethal disabling weapons. I repeat, disable the trader vessels immediately." The Earth fleet sprang into action, their advanced weaponry swiftly neutralizing the remaining defenses of Captain Zorax and his crew. Within moments, the threat from the interstellar traders had been effectively eliminated. David and Hera, still suspended in the amplifier's energy field, turned their attention to establishing formal contact with the Earth ships. Using the complex's communication array, they opened a secure channel to Admiral Chen's flagship. "Admiral Chen, this is David Warren," he began, his voice steady despite the strain. "I'm an Earth citizen who crash-landed on Bajor. There's so much to explain, but first we need to ensure the safety of this planet and its people." As David recounted his integration into Bajoran society and the discovery of the ancient technology, Hera felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. She tightened her grip on David's hand, fighting to maintain their connection. Outside the complex, a new development was unfolding. Led by Lyra, the ancient Bajorans began to emerge from their underground chambers. The villagers watched in awe as these technologically advanced ancestors stepped into the light, their appearances both familiar and alien. Kai Varen, recognizing the potential for conflict, stepped forward. "My people," he addressed both groups, his voice carrying the weight of his position. "We stand at a crossroads of our history. Let us embrace this reunion with open hearts and minds." Inside the control room, David and Hera's condition was deteriorating rapidly. Their bodies convulsed with waves of pain, and their vision blurred intermittently. Lyra rushed to a nearby console, her fingers flying over the controls as she assessed their condition. "The amplification device is causing accelerated genetic mutations," she announced, her voice tense with concern. "Their DNA is being reshaped into a human Bajoran hybrid structure. It's granting them unprecedented control over our technology, but at a great cost to their original selves." Torin moved closer to his sister, his face etched with worry. "Can we stop it? Reverse the process somehow?" Lyra's brow furrowed in concentration. "The stasis pods, we might be able to repurpose them to halt the genetic changes, but it would require separating them and placing them in suspended animation, and we don't know for how long." As they grappled with this dilemma, a new alert sounded. Earth's diplomatic team, led by Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, had landed on Bajor. The delicate first contact situation was about to begin in earnest. David and Hera exchanged a pained look, their minds so intertwined that words were no longer necessary. They could feel the weight of the decision before them. Maintain their connection to manage the diplomatic crisis, or separate to undergo the risky stasis procedure that might save their original identities. Through their enhanced senses, they could perceive the Earth diplomats disembarking, the wary stance of the Bajoran elders, and the mixture of fear and excitement rippling through both groups. They knew their choice would have far-reaching consequences for both species and the future of this sector of space. As Ambassador Rodriguez approached the complex, flanked by her team and escorted by Kai Varen, David and Hera made their decision. With great effort, they began to disengage from the amplification device, their bodies shaking with the strain. "We need to face this as ourselves," David said through gritted teeth. Hera nodded, her face pale but determined. "Whatever we've become, we'll face it together." As they stepped away from the device, their genetic changes slowed but did not stop entirely. They stood hand in hand, their bodies a testament to the merging of two worlds, ready to bridge the gap between Earth and Bajor in more ways than one. The door to the control room slid open, revealing Ambassador Rodriguez and the Earth diplomatic team. The ambassador's eyes widened as she took in the scene before her. The ancient technology, the awakened Bajorans, and at the center of it all, David and Hera, their appearances a striking blend of human and alien. "Welcome to Bajor," David said, his voice steady despite the pain still coursing through his body. "We have much to discuss." "Discuss," David continued, his voice faltering as a wave of pain washed over him. Ambassador Rodriguez's eyes widened as she took in the scene before her. "Mr. Warren, what's happening to you?" Before David could respond, Hera collapsed to her knees, pulling him down with her. Their joined hands trembled violently as their bodies convulsed with another surge of genetic mutation. Lyra rushed forward, her fingers dancing across a nearby console. "Their condition is deteriorating rapidly," she announced, her voice tense with urgency. "The genetic mutations are accelerating beyond our initial projections." Torin moved to support David and Hera, his face etched with concern. "We need to get them to the modified stasis pods immediately." Ambassador Rodriguez stepped back, allowing the Bajorans to tend to the afflicted couple. She turned to Kai Varen, her diplomatic training kicking in despite the shocking situation. Perhaps we should continue our discussions while your people handle this medical emergency? Kai Varen nodded solemnly. Agreed, but I fear this situation may complicate our negotiations significantly. As the diplomatic team was led to a nearby chamber, David and Hera fought to maintain their composure. David's skin now shimmered with an intense otherworldly glow, while Hera's features seemed to shift before their very eyes, blending human and Bajoran characteristics in impossible ways. Lyra, Hera gasped, her voice strained. The ancient technology, it's responding to our distress. As if on cue, the complex hummed to life around them. Energy shields sprang into existence, enveloping key areas of the facility and extending outward to cover large portions of the planet's surface. Dormant weapon systems activated, their power signatures registering on the sensors of both the Earth fleet and the Bajoran defense network. Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the communication systems. This is Admiral Chen to Bajoran Control. We're detecting massive energy fluctuations and weapons charging. Please explain immediately. Kai Varen rushed to respond, his voice calm despite the chaos unfolding around him. Admiral, we are experiencing some unexpected activations of our ancient defense systems. We are working to bring them under control. Please stand by. In the control room, Lyra and Torin worked feverishly to modify the stasis pods. We need to stabilize their condition, Lyra muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. But separating them could leave the ancient systems vulnerable. David and Hera, still linked both physically and mentally, shared a moment of silent communication. Their enhanced connection allowed them to experience each other's thoughts and emotions as if they were their own. In that instant, they knew what they had to do. We'll do it, David said, his voice stronger than before. We'll enter the stasis pods. Hera nodded in agreement. But first, we need to create a guide to the ancient technology. We can't risk losing this knowledge. As Lyra and Torin made the final adjustments to the stasis pods, David and Hera used their enhanced abilities to interface directly with the complex's systems. Their minds worked in perfect synchronization, compiling vast amounts of data into a comprehensive manual for understanding and controlling the ancient Bajoran technology. Outside the facility, the diplomatic discussions had devolved into heated arguments. Ambassador Rodriguez found herself struggling to maintain order as both Earth representatives and Bajoran elders voiced their concerns about the potential dangers of the uncontrolled ancient technology. Kai Varen, ever the mediator, raised his hands for silence. My friends, I propose a compromise. We can establish a limited technology exchange program under strict Bajoran oversight. This would allow for controlled sharing of knowledge while maintaining our sovereignty. As the negotiations continued, a new alert sounded throughout the complex. Admiral Chen's voice, tinged with alarm, came through once more. Bajoran Control, we're detecting a large fleet of unknown vessels entering the system. They appear to be on an intercept course. The control room erupted into a flurry of activity. Lyra's hands flew across the sensor controls, her eyes widening as she interpreted the data. The energy signatures from our activated defenses must have attracted their attention, she said, her voice tight with concern. David and Hera, still connected to the complex's systems, felt the approach of the alien fleet as if it were an extension of their own senses. They shared a look of dedication, knowing that their time was running out. We need to enter the pods now, Hera said, her voice steady despite the pain racking her body. If we wait any longer, the changes might become irreversible. As Lyra and Torin made the final preparations, David and Hera shared one last moment of profound connection. Their bioenergy links surged, allowing them to experience a level of intimacy that transcended physical boundaries. In that instant, they were one being, their minds and bodies harmonizing in a way that defied explanation. No matter what happens, David whispered, his voice thick with emotion, we'll find a way back to each other. Hera squeezed his hand, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Always, she replied. With a final shared nod, they released their grip on each other's hands. The sudden separation sent a shock through their systems, causing the ancient technology to fluctuate wildly. As David and Hera were helped into their respective stasis pods, the planetary defense systems began to destabilize. Lyra's voice was urgent as she initiated the stasis sequence. "The shields are failing! We need to—" Her words were cut off as the pod sealed shut, enveloping David and Hera in a field of shimmering energy. As their consciousness faded, they caught a final glimpse of the chaos unfolding around them. The unknown alien fleet, now identified as the Zorax, had launched probes towards Bajor's weakening defenses. Earth ships moved to intercept, creating a tense standoff in orbit. Within the complex, dormant systems sparked to life, responding to the residual bioenergy link between David and Hera's pods. As they slipped into suspended animation, the fate of two worlds hung in the balance. The ancient Bajoran technology, now without its human Bajoran interfaces, pulsed with unpredictable power. In the skies above, three civilizations teetered on the brink of conflict, each hoping to shape the future of this sector of space. And in their stasis pods, David and Hera dreamed, their transformations halted but not reversed, their destiny still unwritten. Unfinished, their shared consciousness drifting in a sea of suspended animation. Yet even in stasis, their influence on the ancient Bajoran technology persisted. The underground complex hummed with erratic energy, systems activating and deactivating in chaotic patterns. Lyra's fingers flew across the control panels, her brow furrowed in concentration as she attempted to stabilize the fluctuating power levels. The residual bioenergy link between David and Hera is causing unexpected activations throughout the facility, she explained to the team of Earth scientists who had joined her. We need to find a way to contain these surges before they compromise our entire defense network. As if in response to her words, a violent tremor shook the complex. Warning alarms blared, their harsh tones echoing through the cavernous chambers. "Shields failing in sectors 3 through 7, one of the Earth technicians called out, his voice tight with urgency. Outside in the skies above Bajor, the Zorax seized their opportunity. With precision timing, they launched a wave of probes through the momentary gaps in the planet's defenses. The sleek silver objects streaked through the atmosphere, their descent masked by the chaos of the ongoing space battle. Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the communication systems. Multiple objects breaching Bajoran airspace. All units, intercept and neutralize. Earth fighters peeled away from the main engagement, diving into Bajor's atmosphere in pursuit of the Zorax probes. But they were too late. Several probes had already touched down, deploying small, spider-like exploration units that scuttled away into the underbrush. In the village-turned-command center, Ambassador Rodriguez and Kai Varan huddled over a holographic display of Bajor's surface. Red dots indicating Zorax probe landings blinked ominously across the map. "We need to contain this incursion immediately," Rodriguez said, her voice firm despite the stress evident in her eyes. "If those probes transmit detailed information about our defenses back to their fleet, we'll lose any advantage we might have had." Kai Varan nodded gravely. "Agreed. I'll dispatch Torin with a team of our best defenders. They'll use a combination of modern and ancient weaponry to track down and neutralize these probes." As Torin's team mobilized, the situation in orbit deteriorated rapidly. The Zorax, emboldened by their successful probe deployment, pressed their attack with renewed vigor. Energy beams lanced out from their ships, targeting key installations on Bajor's surface. Admiral Chen's voice rang out once more. "All ships, engage! Do not let them establish a foothold!" The space above Bajor erupted into a dazzling display of weapons fire. Earth vessels clashed with the Zorax fleet, energy shields flaring as they absorbed punishing blows. On the planet's surface, the Zorax attack triggered an unexpected response. Deep within long-forgotten mountain bases, ancient energy cannons stirred to life. Their massive barrels emerged from camouflaged housings, swiveling to target the ships in orbit. Lyra's eyes widened as new alerts flooded her console. "The planetary defense grid is activating, but without proper control—" Her warning came too late. The ancient cannons opened fire, their powerful beams slicing indiscriminately through the battle above. Earth and Zorax ships alike scrambled to evade the unexpected assault. In the command center, Rodriguez and Kai Varan watched in horror as the situation spiraled out of control. The ambassador's comm unit chirped, signaling an incoming transmission from Earth High Command. As Rodriguez listened to the message, her face paled. She turned to Kai Varen, her expression grim. Earth is sending a massive fleet to secure Bajor and its technology. They believe it's too valuable to risk losing to the Zorax. Kai Varen's eyes narrowed. And what guarantee do we have that Earth won't simply decide to keep Bajor for itself? Before Rodriguez could respond, Torin's voice crackled over the comm system. Command, we've engaged the Zorax ground units. They're interfacing with our technology somehow. I think they might be related to us. This revelation sent shockwaves through the command center. As they grappled with its implications, another alarm sounded from the underground complex. Lyra's panicked voice filled the air. The stasis pods are malfunctioning. David and Hera's genetic mutations are accelerating again. We need to stabilize them immediately, or we might lose them forever. In that moment, with Zorax probes on the ground, ancient weapons firing wildly into space, and Earth forces on their way to claim Bajor for themselves, the fate of two worlds hung in the balance. And at the center of it all, sealed in their failing stasis pods, David and Hera continued to change, their hybrid forms potentially holding the key to salvation or destruction. The underground complex shook violently as another energy surge ripped through its ancient systems. Lyra's hands flew across the control panels, her eyes darting between the failing stasis pods and the chaotic battle unfolding on the monitors above. We're out of options, she said, her voice tight with tension. We need to wake them up. With a deep breath, Lyra initiated the emergency awakening protocol. The stasis pods hissed open, releasing a cloud of cryogenic vapor. David and Hera's eyes snapped open simultaneously, their bodies convulsing as they gasped for air. As the fog cleared, the extent of their transformation became apparent. David's skin emitted a soft, ethereal glow, pulsing in rhythm with his rapid heartbeat. Hera's features had morphed into a striking blend of human and Bajoran characteristics, her forehead ridges now subtle and elegant. Their eyes met, and in that instant, a flood of information passed between them without a word spoken. They understood the dire situation, the failing defenses, and the imminent threat of the Zorax invasion. We need to stabilize the defense grid, David said, his voice resonating with newfound strength. Hera nodded, already moving towards the main control interface. We can do it together. As they approached the ancient console, their bodies seemed to sync with the technology around them. The erratic energy pulses smoothed out, and the massive energy cannons above ground ceased their wild firing. Lyra watched in awe as David and Hera's fingers danced across the controls, their movements perfectly coordinated. On the tactical displays, the Bajoran defense grid came to life with newfound precision, targeting the Zorax ships with unerring accuracy. Outside, Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the comms. What's happening down there? The planetary defenses have suddenly become coordinated. Before Lyra could respond, a series of explosions lit up the sky. The Zorax fleet, caught off guard by the sudden shift in Bajoran defenses, lost several ships in rapid succession. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Torin led his team through dense underbrush, tracking the spider-like Zorax probes. He held a small, ancient Bajoran device in his hand, its surface etched with intricate symbols. "Over there," one of his team members called out, pointing to a metallic glint in the foliage. Torin raised the device, adjusting its settings as he'd been instructed. A high-pitched whine emanated from it, causing the Zorax probe to convulse and collapse. "It works," Torin breathed, a smile spreading across his face. "Quick, fan out and find the others." His team moved with renewed purpose, systematically disabling the alien probes across the Bajoran landscape. In the village command center, Ambassador Rodriguez and Kai Varen huddled over a holographic display, watching as the tide of battle slowly turned in their favor. "The Earth reinforcement fleet will be here soon," Rodriguez said, her brow furrowed with concern. "If they arrive before we've dealt with the Zorax..." Kai Varen nodded gravely. "We need more time." He tapped his communicator. "Lyra, is there any way we can use the ancient technology to delay the Earth fleet?" In the underground complex, Lyra relayed the request to David and Hera. The hybrid couple shared a look of understanding, their mental link allowing them to formulate a plan instantly. "We can create a subspace distortion," Hera explained, her fingers already moving across the controls. "It won't stop them, but it will slow their approach significantly." David nodded, his glowing skin pulsing with increased intensity as he channeled more power into the ancient systems. "Initiating now." In space, a shimmering field of energy blossomed outward from Bajor, enveloping a vast swath of the surrounding system. The approaching Earth reinforcements found their progress suddenly impeded, as if moving through thick syrup. Admiral Chen's voice came through once more, tinged with a mix of frustration and awe. "Whatever you've done, it's working. The Zorax are on the defensive." As David and Hera continued to direct the defense grid, their connection to the ancient technology deepened. Suddenly, a flood of information cascaded through their shared consciousness. "Lyra," David called out, his voice tight with excitement. "We found something. Historical records. The Zorax, they've been here before." Hera's eyes widened as she processed the information. "Millennia ago, there was a conflict. That's why the Bajorans isolated themselves." Lyra rushed to their side, her scientific curiosity piqued. "What else does it say?" "Their weaknesses," Hera said, a smile spreading across her face. "We know how to stop them." With their newfound knowledge, David and Hera reconfigured the Bajoran defense system. The energy cannon's output shifted, emitting a specific frequency that played havoc with Zorax technology. In orbit, the alien fleet suddenly found itself crippled. Weapons systems failed, and propulsion units sputtered and died. The once fearsome armada hung motionless in space, vulnerable and exposed. Admiral Chen, recognizing the opportunity, opened a channel to the Zorax flagship. "This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is disabled, and you are outnumbered. We demand your immediate surrender and withdrawal from Bajoran space." As the Zorax commanders deliberated their response, Torn and his team successfully neutralized the last of the ground probes. They began the process of securing the alien technology, their minds racing with the possibilities it presented. In the command center, Ambassador Rodriguez and Kai Varen watched as the Zorax fleet began to retreat. A collective sigh of relief swept through the room, but it was short-lived. "We may have won this battle," Kai Varen said solemnly, "but we've opened a Pandora's box. The galaxy now knows of our ancient technology. What do we do next?" Rodriguez nodded, her expression grave. "And what about David and Hera? Their transformation, it changes everything." As if in response to her words, the holographic display flickered, showing an image of the hybrid couple. Their altered forms stood side by side, hands intertwined, surrounded by the pulsing energy of the ancient Bajoran technology. In that moment, it was clear that the future of Bajor, Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy had been irrevocably changed. The immediate crisis had passed, but as the dust settled, new challenges loomed on the horizon. The complex dance of diplomacy, technology, and the unknown had only just begun. As the immediate threat of the Zorax invasion receded, the focus shifted to the monumental changes unfolding on Bajor. David and Hera, their bodies still adjusting to the dramatic transformations, found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of attention. Scientists, government officials, and curious onlookers alike clamored for a glimpse of the hybrid couple who had turned the tide of battle. Recognizing the need for privacy and time to process their new reality, Kai Varen approached them with a proposal. "We have a secluded mountain sanctuary," he said, his voice gentle. "It's a place of peace and reflection. I think you both could benefit from some time there." David and Hera exchanged a glance, their newfound mental link allowing them to communicate without words. After a moment, Hera nodded. "We appreciate the offer, Kai. I think we could use some time to adjust." As they prepared to depart for the sanctuary, Ambassador Rodriguez pulled David aside. "Earth will have questions," she said, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. "But I'll do my best to buy you some time. Just keep us informed of any new developments, okay?" David nodded, his skin pulsing with a soft glow. "Thank you, Ambassador. We'll stay in touch." The journey to the mountain sanctuary was a blur of verdant forests and winding paths. As they arrived, David and Hera found themselves standing before a structure that seemed to grow organically from the mountainside. Its graceful arches and shimmering surfaces hinted at the same ancient technology they had interfaced with during the battle. Inside, they discovered a space that was both alien and comforting. Living quarters merged seamlessly with research facilities, all powered by a thrumming energy that seemed to resonate with their altered physiology. Lyra joined them a few days later, her eyes wide with excitement as she took in the sanctuary's advanced systems. "This is incredible," she breathed, running her hand along a console that sprang to life at her touch. "With your unique abilities and this technology, who knows what we might discover?" Over the following months, David and Hera worked closely with Lyra and a team of Earth Bajoran scientists who were granted limited access to the sanctuary. Together, they delved into the mysteries of the ancient Bajoran technology, their efforts yielding breakthroughs that would have once seemed like science fiction. One afternoon, as David interfaced with a particularly complex system, he felt a surge of energy course through him. The room filled with a holographic display of swirling particles and equations. "Hera!" he called out, his voice filled with awe. "I think I've found something." Hera rushed to his side, her hand instinctively finding his. As their energies merged, the holographic display stabilized, revealing a revolutionary method of clean energy production. "This could power entire cities," Hera whispered, her mind already racing with the possibilities. Their work didn't stop there. Each day brought new discoveries, medical treatments that could cure previously incurable diseases, propulsion systems that could cut interstellar travel time in half, and communication methods that defied the laws of physics as they knew them. As news of these advancements spread, Bajor found itself thrust into the galactic spotlight. The once isolated world became a beacon of innovation, attracting interest from across known space. In the corridors of power, Ambassador Rodriguez and Kai Varan worked tirelessly to navigate this new reality. Their efforts culminated in a landmark treaty between Earth and Bajor, establishing the latter as an independent but allied world. "This is a historic moment," Rodriguez announced at the treaty signing, her voice carrying across the grand hall in Bajor's capital. "Today we formalize not just an alliance, but a partnership that will shape the future of both our worlds." Kai Varan nodded solemnly. "And we mustn't forget those whose sacrifices and unique gifts have made this possible," he added, his gaze finding David and Hera in the audience. As the applause died down, David turned to Hera, a question forming in his mind. Their mental link hummed with shared emotion as Hera smiled, already knowing what he was about to ask. "Yes," she said aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll marry you." Their decision to formalize their union set in motion preparations for an event that would capture the imagination of two worlds. The wedding ceremony, held in the shadow of the mountain sanctuary, blended Earth and Bajoran traditions in a celebration of unity and new beginnings. As David and Hera exchanged vows, their bioenergy surged, creating a dazzling aurora of light that danced across the sky. The assembled guests gasped in wonder, many interpreting the display as a blessing from Bajor itself. Among the attendees were familiar faces: Admiral Chen, his uniform adorned with new medals; Toran, now heading Bajor's Planetary Defense Force; and even a small delegation from the Zorax, their presence a testament to the new era of diplomacy ushered in by recent events. As the celebration wound down, David and Hera found a moment of quiet together. They stood on a balcony overlooking the vast Bajoran landscape, the twin moons casting a soft glow over the scene. "What's next for us?" David asked, his arm around Hera's waist. Hera leaned into him, her mind already buzzing with ideas. "I've been thinking about those other dormant technologies we detected. What if we could reactivate them? Imagine what else we might find." David nodded, a smile playing at his lips. "A new mission, then, exploring Bajor's past to secure its future." As they stood there, contemplating the path ahead, neither could have imagined the wonders and challenges that awaited them. The ancient cities buried beneath Bajor's surface, the holographic messages left by long-gone ancestors, and the artifact that would open gateways to distant galaxies, all lay hidden, waiting to be discovered. Their journey, which had begun with a crashed ship and a daring proposal, was far from finished. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, David and Hera step back inside, ready to embrace whatever adventures the new day might bring.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.